The Galactic Council had declared the void off-limits for 3,000 cycles. It was a region of space where reality itself seemed to unravel, a tear in the fabric of the universe where stars didn't shine, and physics forgot its own rules. Ships that ventured too close simply vanished, their distress signals cutting off mid-transmission. The void didn't destroy, it erased. Commander Zexathar of the Krillian Observation Fleet had monitored the void's boundary for 2 decades. In all that time, nothing had ever emerged. The darkness consumed, never released. That's why when his sensors detected movement from within, he assumed it was a malfunction. "Recalibrate the long-range scanner," he ordered, his mandibles clicking nervously. "Sir," his navigation officer replied, "the readings are accurate. Something is exiting the void." The bridge fell silent. Every species in the galaxy knew the legend. The void was hunger given form, entropy's final victory. Whatever entered was gone forever, scattered into non-existence across infinite dimensions of emptiness. Yet there it was on their screens, a vessel battered and scarred, dragging itself out of impossible darkness. "Magnify," Zexthar commanded. The image resolved, and his 3 hearts nearly stopped. The ship was barely recognizable as a spacecraft. Entire sections had been torn away, exposing skeletal framework underneath. Hull plating hung loose like peeling skin. One engine was completely gone, while another sputtered with inconsistent bursts. The craft shouldn't have been capable of movement, let alone crossing the threshold back into normal space. "Identification?" Zexthar asked. "The registry is human, sir, Terran Federation. The vessel is the TFNS Indomitable. It's been missing for 17 cycles. 17 cycles in the void. The Krillians had lost a probe for 3 minutes in the outer edges once, and it had returned as a twisted sculpture of impossible angles that drove researchers mad just looking at it. Nothing living could survive 17 minutes, let alone 17 cycles. Are there life signs?" A pause. "Yes, sir. Faint, but present. Approximately 73 humans still aboard." Zexthar's crew exchanged looks of disbelief. Humans were a relatively new species to the galactic stage, resourceful and stubborn, certainly, but they lacked the Krillians' natural radiation resistance, the Vorthons' dimensional awareness, or the Selenites' quantum state consciousness. They were just persistent mammals with tool-making capabilities. "Open a channel," Zexthar ordered. Static filled the bridge, punctuated by strange whispers that might have been echoes from the void itself. Then a voice, crackling and worn, but undeniably human. "This is Captain Maria Santos of the Terran Federation Navy ship Indomitable. We are requesting immediate assistance. We have wounded aboard." The matter-of-fact tone was jarring. This human spoke as if she'd merely suffered engine trouble, not emerged from literal oblivion. "Captain Santos," Zexathar managed, "you were in the void for 17 cycles. How did we survive?" She laughed, though it sounded more like a cough. "Badly, Commander. We survived badly. But we survived. Now, are you going to help us or not?" The Krillian medical teams that boarded the Indomitable would need psychological treatment for cycles afterward. The ship's interior was a nightmare of jury-rigged systems held together with welding, cables, and what appeared to be sheer willpower. Entire sections were sealed off, their atmospheres vented. The hydroponics bay had been converted into a makeshift graveyard for the 127 crew members who hadn't made it. But the surviving humans had fought. Oh, how they'd fought. They'd rerouted power through conduits that shouldn't have been compatible. They'd created a makeshift Faraday cage around life support using stripped hull plating and personal electronics. When the void's physics-bending effects began warping their navigation systems, they'd navigated by dead reckoning, using centuries-old celestial charts stored in the ship's historical database. When their food ran out, they'd survived on recycled nutrients and synthesized proteins from the medical bay. When power failed, they'd peddled bicycle generators for 18 hours a day. When reality itself seemed to dissolve around them, they'd painted marks on the walls, held meetings, told stories, and reminded each other that they were real, that they existed, that they mattered. Captain Santos sat in the Krillian medical bay, her arm in a regenerative sleeve, and explained to Zexithar. "The void didn't erase us because we refused to be erased," she said simply. "Every species that entered before probably waited for rescue or accepted their fate. We're humans, Commander. We're too stupid to know when we're beaten and too stubborn to die quietly." "But the physics," Zexithar protested. "The dimensional instability should have torn your minds apart." Santos smiled, and there was something frightening in that expression. Not malice, but an indomitable will that sent a shiver through Zexithar's exoskeleton. "It tried," she said, "but we had something more important than understanding the void. We had each other and we had hope. Turns out, that's enough. When you've got an engineer who'll work 30-hour shifts to keep air flowing, a doctor who'll perform surgery by flashlight, and a crew that'll pedal generators until their legs give out, reality has to bend around you, not the other way around." The Indomitable was eventually towed to a Federation shipyard. The Galactic Council wanted to study it, to understand how human engineering had accomplished the impossible. But the humans refused. Instead, they repaired the ship, upgraded her, and put her back into service. They mounted a plaque in the bridge. "We went into the void, and the void blinked first." And throughout the galaxy, species that had existed for millions of years, longer than humanity, looked at the scarred ship and reconsidered everything they thought they knew about survival. Because humans had done something no species in galactic history had accomplished. They'd entered the consuming darkness and emerged still fighting, still hoping, still stubbornly, impossibly alive. The void remained off-limits to all species, except perhaps to humans, who'd already proven they didn't need permission to survive the unsurvivable.